Breaking news, the UCO enters Felix Bolaños' Ministry of Justice while investigating the dirty dealings of Pedro Sánchez. Let's get started. Music! Hello everyone and welcome to a new edition of Precautionary Measures just arrived from Bolaños. But before we get into the trial of the brother of the Prime Minister David Sánchez, allow me to address some breaking news. The agents of the Central Operative Unit of the Civil Guard UCO have entered the Ministry of Justice of Felix Bolaños. All of this is part of the investigation into the dirty dealings of the PSOE. In other words, the dirty dealings of Pedro Sánchez. We're going to share this breaking news as we always do, but remember to subscribe to the Medidas Cautelares channel because we're on our way to 150,000 subscribers. And we already have this information on screen. There's not a single day in Spain when we're not shocked by some news of corruption related to Pedro Sánchez's government, his party, his family, or his circle, and today is no exception. We've just finished the trial of the brother and pay attention to this information we're about to explain because it's really worth hearing. The UCO enters Bolaños' ministry over the nationalization of the Bolivarian collaborator from the PSOE's Dirty Tricks Department. The Central Operative Unit of the Civil Guard, UCO, went this Tuesday to the headquarters of the Ministry of Justice of Felix Bolaños, with the aim of gathering information about the nationalization of Nervis. Gerardo Villalobos Cárdenas, the former Deputy Minister of Energy under Hugo Chavez, who collaborated with the dirty operations of the PSOE. One of the UCO reports to which we have had access in Precautionary Measures and Digital Freedom. Within the framework of the summary of the PSOE's dirty operations, it reveals that the fixer for the PSOE, Leila Reten, asked Santos Cerdán, the one who was Pedro Sánchez's right-hand man, to talk to Felix Maleti. This, in quotes, to do a favor for Nervis, who had managed to locate the complainant against the anti-corruption prosecutor, José Grinda. Felix, well, coincidentally, there's a Felix Bolaños who is the Minister of Justice. And what was Felix helping with? Well, to do a favor for Nervis Villalobos, who had managed to locate a woman who had reported one of the prosecutors targeted by the Dirty Ops network, which was the anti-corruption prosecutor José Grinda. Nervis Villalobos was charged for the instrumental use of the company Columbus One Properties to allegedly launder illicit money coming from Felix, coincidentally a Felix Bolaños. A Felix Bolaños anti-corruption Grinda. Felix Bolaños was the anti-corruption Grinda. Well, according to sources from the Office of the President, the General Subdirectorate of Nationalities and Civil Status, which is under Bolaños' ministry, has delivered the reports requested yesterday by the National Court Judge Santiago Pedraz himself. These sources emphasize that Nervis Villalobos' application was submitted on April 25, 2024, and it was denied on October 10, 2025. The agencies under this ministry have voluntarily delivered 2 additional files on the same person. One regarding his first application for citizenship by residency on February 20-2017, which was denied on July 17, 2020, and a second application for citizenship under the Democratic Memory Law before the Civil Registry, which was granted on April 21, 2025 and registered on October 23. In other words, the actions of the Ministry of Justice, Felix Bolaños, are being investigated with one of the collaborators of the SUR, a Chavista Bolivarian collaborator. In this way, the ministry confirms, as the Civil Guard investigators stated in their report, that Nervis Villalobos obtained citizenship after the intervention of the socialist SUR networks, although the ministry specifies that the citizenship was granted in accordance with current laws, of course. They say literally, if the applicants meet the requirements, it must always be granted, while if they fail to meet any of the requirements, the only option is denial. Hey, what a coincidence that this man managed to meet all the requirements, and right after Santos Cerdán asked Felix for the favor so that Nervis Villalobos could get citizenship. Everything is just a coincidence in the world of the Sanchista cesspool, the socialist cesspool. The difference was that Nervis Villalobos tried different ways to get citizenship, finally succeeding this last time by filing an appeal based on the democratic memory law. This appeal was reviewed by 4 officials. There is a report from an advisor, an approval from the head of service, the proposal from the Deputy Director General, and the decision from the General Director. According to claimants from Moncloa, this is a common appeal, since the General Directorate would have received 189 appeals against the decisions of the Central Civil Registry regarding the nationality option provided for in the Democratic Memory Law of 2025. These same sources go on to say that 164 were upheld, 20 were dismissed, 3 were closed, and in 2 cases the proceedings were ordered to be rolled back. This is the latest news. Agents of the Central Operational Unit of the Civil Guard, UCO, as part of the investigation led by the National Court Judge Santiago Pedras about the dirty dealings of Pedro Sánchez's Socialist Party. They have entered Felix Bolaños' Ministry of Justice with the aim of investigating the nationality that was granted to a collaborator of the dirty dealings, a Venezuelan Bolivarian Chavista named Nervis Villalobos, who is being investigated in some legal cases in Spain related to money laundering by the Venezuelan state company PDVSA. That's the latest information. As I said, there's not a single day without corruption scandals from Pedro Sánchez's government. And as I was also telling you, today is an important day. Today is Tuesday, June 9th. We're already getting close to summer. And today the trial against the brother of the president of the government, David Sánchez, has concluded and is now awaiting a verdict. I have been following the trial live from Badajoz. Thank you all very much for your support for those recordings I had to do out on the street, not like now here in the Medidas Cotelares studio. Thank you for your attention these past days. And well, in this last session, 2 defense attorneys finished presenting their closing arguments, and it was time for the defendants to have their final say. It should be noted that during the final statement, Pedro Sánchez's brother, David Sánchez, chose not to speak. It's a right that you can choose to exercise or not, and the one who did use it was the other main defendant in this case, the former socialist deputy of the Badajoz Provincial Council, Miguel Ángel Gallardo, who, with his usual verbosity, basically stated that he reiterated his innocence before the court, that a media trial has already been carried out here by the popular accusations, The only thing they wanted was a social condemnation, which they have achieved against these defendants because they think differently from them. And in short, well, a portrait and a victim narrative, as always, from Miguel Ángel Gallardo, that it's always someone else's fault, that they've never done anything wrong. But there we have, well, the brother of the president of the government, the one who spent years enjoying 2 positions that all Spaniards paid for simply and plainly, for being the brother of Pedro Sánchez, simply and plainly. And the trial, as I was saying, is now pending a verdict. And what I can already tell you is that, in principle, I always tell you to be very cautious when we talk about timing, because this can change this. The information I'm going to give you now is what I have as of today, but that doesn't mean it's set in stone. This can change. What is the court's current forecast? Well, the court of the Provincial Court of Badajoz, which has tried David Sánchez, the former president of the socialist indictment, Miguel Ángel Gallardo, and 9 other people. It is expected that the verdict will come out at the earliest at the end of July, and if not after the summer, at the beginning of September or during that month, okay? Why? Why is that verdict going to be delayed? Well, the information I have is based on 3 reasons. The first is that there are 11 defendants in this case, so the verdict is more complex in that sense. While I don't think the procedure is difficult, ultimately we're talking about a job given to one person through favoritism. It's not like a big financial case, money laundering, etc. It's a simpler matter, but it's true that there are 11 defendants. Secondly, they tell us that the court has a lot of work piled up and also in the coming weeks, and that's going to delay them being able to spend more time issuing the verdict. Thirdly, this case doesn't have, let's say, the same urgency as, for example, the Supreme Court's verdict on the Coldo case, which will be announced very soon, very soon. I wouldn't rule out this week or the next at the latest. Because in the Supreme Court case about the Koldo plot, there were people in jail. It was a case with prisoners because Abalos and Koldo are in pretrial detention. So, whenever a court has a case with someone in jail, there's always an urgency to issue the verdict. In this case of David Sánchez, none of the 11 defendants are in pretrial detention, so that's also a reason why there's no urgency when it comes to issuing the verdict. Things are really heating up. We're getting closer to August, and every week, every day, there will definitely be one bombshell after another, and we'll keep telling you about them here on Medidas Cautelares. That's it for this edition of Medidas Cautelares. I hope you liked the video. If so, leave me your comments and your opinions. Thank you so much for all your support these days in Badajoz, in Madrid, wherever you are. Thank you so much. Really, I am very grateful. And remember that you can also keep supporting this channel if you become members, as chosen members for less than €3 a month, or as supreme members for less than €7 a month. Precisely, we're going to dedicate today's show to our newest chosen member, which is Goyo Vidal. Thank you so much, Goyo. This show is for you. And you also know that you can make contributions via Bizum at 627-556-370, 627-556-370. We're always trying to improve technically and to make sure you always get the best information in the best possible way. Most importantly, as I always say, information should reach everyone because it's power. See you soon.